Welcome, everybody. It is officially 2 p.m. on Thursday, which means it's the Hempibition showtime, 2 p.m. Pacific. And I keep saying 2 p.m. Pacific because I keep getting questions. Is it 2 p.m. Central? Is it 2 p.m. Eastern? Is it 2 p.m. in Italy? No, it's 2 p.m. Pacific. So I'll let you guys figure it out from there, but it's always 2 p.m. Pacific. So welcome. Let's get situated. Let's get ready. Let's get energized. Let's get amped. We're gonna have a crazy conversation today with a complete badass. And yes, in my post yesterday, I did talk shit. I said he's the guy that you'll see pictures of on social media with less shirts on than off than on. Anyway, we'll get to meet a complete badass today. Very committed and dedicated to health and lifestyle and fun stuff. So, hey, I see. What's up, Catherine? Mama Cat and badass in the house. I'm gonna say you're in the house. You're not on the house. If you're on the house, you should get down. But I know what you mean. So, hello, Chris Musacho, Kathleen, Kai. What's up, Kai? David. What's up, brother John? Beth, always hello. David, badass people. Look at this. We got there's some fire going on. So as you guys know the rules, I'm going to give you, I know you're in the house. I know. I speak Catherine. We're good. What's up, Sarah? I use your story so much. You have no idea, Sarah. Oh Lord. Anyway, it's all good. So listen, it's Facebook land. As you know, this conversation will get repurposed to the podcast. There's the Hempibition podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, etc. So this conversation will be there next Thursday. This conversation will also go to the Hempibition YouTube channel. So we repurpose this. But for the Facebook rules, you guys know what to do, right? You got to smash the heart button. Like hit it a lot, like during, before, after, just smash it because it gets the Facebook algorithm going. And then you want to tag someone, anybody that today is maybe stuck at home. They need to make money. Their job sucks. Their business sucks. And they're looking for a change. This will be the conversation that they need. So tag them now or click the share button, pop, poop, peep, and share this with people. And of course, engagement. We're on social media. It's called social. Engagement is the mother load. So what I'm requesting for you guys is comments. Drop comments. My first question for everybody is, where are you chiming in from? Where are you from? Again, give me some, like, a little city, a little, or we should, what we should do right now? Like, gosh, I don't want to talk shit, but I think we should. Like, just give me your governor's name and I'll know exactly if you're in a good state or bad state. So with that said, you also want to do your own watch party. Watch parties are very important and very powerful because it gets this message to your audience, but it takes the pressure off of you because you don't have to do the talking. I do it. My guests do it. It's all fun and games. Cool. I need to get a cool from everybody. And then of course on podcast, if you're listening to this on any one of the podcast platforms, of course, give us a 5-star review, download us, please, and subscribe to the channel. And on YouTube, of course, you guys already know what to do because you're complete badasses. You want to give us the thumbs up. You want to subscribe to the channel, and then you want to hit that little bell that gives you an alert every time we upload new content. Are you guys ready? I need to know if you guys, because I'm not sure. I can't feel the energy. I need to know if you guys are ready because this conversation is going to be LITFU. Do you guys know? No, LTFU. I need to know if anybody knows what LTFU is. Drop it in comments. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Boom! That's why I'm LTFU, because our guest today is a complete badass. And I'll just tell you guys a little bit about the one and only, very committed. And I'll tell you, in the last 18, 19 months, whatever it's been that we've known each other online, met one time at convention. But I'll tell you what got my attention about this human being. Look, we're all entrepreneurs here. We're all here to make a buck. And, we have conversations. We run teams. Cool. But there was a moment in time where he had to step up and take care of his family. Boom. Got my attention because, until then, it's like, we can all build teams and we can do fun. You got it. But that's when he told me who he is and what's inside and what the fight is all about and what makes him special. So I know we're going to get into that today as much as he wants to, but I want to introduce to everybody a friend of mine, a complete badass in the entrepreneur space, network marketing space, and of course, crazy bodybuilder. If you don't believe me, go look at his pictures online. He's trying to catch up to me. It's weird. Stop competing, bro. The one and only Aaron Rashkin. Welcome to the Hempibition Show, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, Andre. So great to be here with you today. And yeah, I've been watching you for the last 18 months since we were introduced, really. And yeah. I gotta say, man, you have really made your mark, not just in the network marketing industry, but being a leader for the cannabis and the hemp and the CBD industry. It's just great to watch you and Tammy and your girls really just blaze the trail for so many tens of thousands of us. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you for those words. Thank you. I appreciate it. But let's talk about you. Are you ready?
You want to know?
Yeah. Well, look, so I think, so yes, whoever, Paul Jenkins, you are correct. It is Lit the Fuck Up. Thank you for answering that. LTFU is the word. So Aaron, my goal in this show and in the conversation today is for people to understand that there are options, right? You could have gone out there, you could have got a job, you could have been corporate America, you could have been all kinds of things, right? But you chose a certain path. So I want people to understand, especially with what's happening today, especially with the uncertainty of the economy and what's tomorrow, next month, why this is an option and why it's such a phenomenal option. I'm not talking necessarily this company or this industry, but the idea of getting out there and being an entrepreneur, making your own way and what it takes. So that's the big message. And when you get to a hard day, what you do to stay the game and go long-term, etc. So that's the main conversation. But as we build our conversation to get there, I want people to know just your roots a little bit, where you come from, what, you're maybe a little bit about parents and what they instilled in you and where this fight comes from. Let's go back a little bit.
Yeah. Lots to share here today. First and foremost, I came from a semi-dysfunctional family. And there's not a whole lot of non-dysfunctional families these days, but I happen to come from a dysfunctional family in the sense that my parents loved me, but they didn't love on each other. They divorced when I was about 4 years old. And, the long story short is that created a very expansive cascade of emotional issues for me.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, I was so confused. I was, unsure, a lot of uncertainty. And I grew up with a very low self-esteem, And it wasn't, my parents' fault, but, as I grew older, I realized that they did the best they could with what they had. And, processing that at 4 years old, it became my responsibility. But it took a very long time for me to really, grasp the idea of being radically responsible
right.
And learning how to self-source so that I didn't have to depend on anything out here for my own inner peace and happiness. And it took me literally decades to be aware of this because I didn't have anybody to really light those blind spots up for me. In other words, I was very much on my own at a very young age. I remember, making myself breakfast and learning how to do laundry when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old and just really, kind of figuring things out on my own, which at that age, my processing ability was so low that a lot of things I filtered were very, very skewed messages in my own little childlike mind. So I created stories around my self-worth, my reason or my purpose for being alive and, what my life's path and mission was supposed to be. So I had a lot of these perceptions of myself that were, very inaccurate. And when I look back now, I see that, I looked at the world very much the way I saw myself, right? We always see the world the exact way we see ourselves. It's a direct reflection of who we really are. from the inside out. And I knew that I didn't like the world. It just didn't look good to me. So I, by the time I figured out that I saw the world as a direct reflection of myself, I'm now in my early 20s, getting started in entrepreneurship. And boy, did I look at this industry, and not just the network marketing or the home-based business industry, but did I look at entrepreneurship very differently then than I do now here 25 years later.
You made a post a few days ago and you talked about how, I don't know, it was 20 years ago or 2001. So yeah, somewhere there, you were busting out 200 calls a day.
At times I did hundreds of dials per day. Now I did them manually at first. I literally was, this is before we were.
Yeah. So you'd have to like punch it
in. This is before cell phones, right?
Yeah.
When we were free. Isn't that interesting? Like they call it a cell phone because we are tied to the world through our phones.
It's a prison cell.
We're in more bondage now than we were when we used to have a hardline phone and we were connected to a cord that was attached to a wall, right?
Oh yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
It's crazy.
Yeah, when I first got into entrepreneurship, and I'll give a little bit more of my backstory after I respond to your question, but one of the very first things I learned how to do when I got started in entrepreneurship was how to pick up a phone and make a phone call to a complete stranger, and open up the conversation with something that it would reduce the tension and increase the cooperation like that, immediately. And so that was what I learned how to do in the beginning, because I didn't have a lot of credibility with my friends, my family. My friends knew me as the guy in the corner at a party with a lampshade on my head, after having, 5 beer bongs and doing a few, rips off of a regular bong, Like I grew up in that environment where there was a lot of vices available, a lot of substances that I could scratch my addictions with. So for me, I didn't have a lot of credibility. So it was a lot easier for me to recreate myself with people who didn't know my backstory. They didn't know, what I was like in college, or they didn't know what I was like, in high school. And they didn't have a preconceived, notion or an image of me that would reduce the trust level. So immediately I was able to get into character using some scripts that I was given when I bought a list of leads. And, that experience served me so well, because making hundreds of calls per day, thousands of calls per week, sometimes several thousand per month, I was able to really spot patterns when it came to people and really predict human nature. So if I said this, they would say that. If I said it this way, they would say it that way. Right. And I learned how to use my tonality, my inflection, my rhythm, my speed, my tempo, my volume, and really how to get into rapport with people in a conversation where they've never heard my name, never met me, never heard my voice, don't know me, my company, my product, my opportunity. And I was able to, really start building my businesses by becoming a master recruiter. 20
years ago.
Yeah, back in the 90s.
Damn.
Yeah, back. I said I was going to start with my backstory. So, So when my parents split up, my parents divorced when I was a little boy. My dad was an entrepreneur, and he started his own business. He had his own business, I think, before I was even born. And I wound up spending a lot of time with my dad, and I was really growing up inside of his company. He had a big warehouse. He was in coffee. He was in the coffee industry. And then he expanded into tea and refreshments, like iced tea and lemonade, and got into like refreshments like cookies and crackers and chips and dips, and he was in bed with Swiss Miss, not literally, but
I get it.
He worked with Nabisco, and Nestle and Lipton and all big coffee houses. He was basically getting huge shipments of coffee shipped to his warehouse, and I would be on the trucks and help unloading boxes, when I was 5 and 6 years old, cleaning coffee machines. And
so cool.
weighing out packets of sweet and low and sugar and coffee stirrers and cups. And then he got into paper products. So I grew up in that industry with my dad. And I watched him build a company from just a couple employees to, dozens and dozens of employees and trucks and fleets of delivery, materials and pallets and crates and warehouses. That's where I grew up. So I watched my dad as an entrepreneur. And as I, continued to spend more and more time with him, and I got to know all of his employees, I realized that, I wanted to be an entrepreneur because I really loved how my dad was able to connect with people and communicate with his people and, the friendships and the relationships that he had. And, little by little, as his company grew, what was so interesting was that the more, the company grew and the bigger this company that he owned, the more the business actually owned him.
That's
and
good.
I remember standing outside of a phone booth when I was a little boy, waiting for my dad to come out because he was on the phone with his office. He was constantly babysitting employees. If the office manager called in sick, he had to make sure somebody else could open up the office. And my dad was always an entrepreneur, and he always loved to travel and vacation and took us on trips all the time and all sorts of great places. But there was a time where I thought my dad was Superman because he was always in a phone booth.
That's funny.
Yeah, I literally remember standing outside waiting for my dad.
Interesting.
Constantly to clean up the mess that was going on in his office. It was just constant headaches. So one of the things I picked up at a very early age was I loved the idea of being an entrepreneur, but I was more committed to the idea of being free as an entrepreneur. So I didn't have employees, I didn't have overhead, I didn't have office space, I didn't have to babysit, adults or these people that would come and go. It's interesting when you run a company, right? And your employees do not have as much to gain from the success of your company as you do. You really don't have security. You may have leverage, but there's not a lot of security there because people will work hard enough not to get fired and make just enough not to quit. And my dad was constantly, replacing, employees with the turnover. They would start, he would train them, or, another employee would train them, and they would find a better job for a few dollars an hour more, and then they would leave. So my dad was constantly replacing the turnover, and it was like a burn and churn. And I literally saw my dad become everything to everybody.
Wow.
And I knew that there had to be a better way than running a company to build a business and have that leverage, because I was, my highest value in life, Andre, is to be free. It's my freedom.
Amen.
Freedom. And I knew that if I had a company that was going to be the downfall of my freedom.
That's huge. Interesting. So it's funny how we are our past, right? So all these stories of the warehouse and pallets and you're moving boxes at the age of 5 and 6, like you can't replace that shit, right? Like there's no school in the world where you can go today to learn those lessons. Like watching dad in a phone booth thinking that he's Superman. It's like, where do you go learn those lessons today? You can't. It was done. It's there, and that's all in your DNA. So totally love that. At what point did you get into fitness? Not just fitness, but you're, I believe, at a level of, it's a different level of fitness, because like there are people that work out, but you take it very, very seriously, as opposed to the guy that does CrossFit. I'm not talking shit about Aaron Parker, but you know what I mean? No, but so, yeah, so he's very, very into CrossFit, and you're very, very into whatever you do. So at what point did you get into it, and why to this level, and why for so long? Because most people like me, I'll do it for 2 months and I'm good, and I'll get back to my burritos, right? Let's go there.
Okay, so I always had a very strong interest in bodybuilding. Now, I was never a bodybuilder, right? I never cared to get into a a mankini or whatever you call that, a pickle suit, and get on stage and flash.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I never cared to flash my body for an audience on stage like that, you know? And 99% of why I post so much, you know, without a shirt on or, you know, in the middle of a workout is because my whole life I've always wanted to inspire people, you know, to be better than they currently are, to, you know, become somebody different, to transform and expand and transcend past any lack or limitation that they have, you know, in any mind, body, or spirit, you know. And it's really difficult sometimes to, you know, transfer that message of the physical being without showing people that you're an example of success. You know, we got to lead from the front with our vision and not from the back with a stick. Like, I don't expect people to do what I say. I just hope that if they want the kind of results and lifestyle that I live, that they will just do what I do, you know. And this is how I coach my clients, and this is how I lead my teams and influence all the people in my family and my friendship circle, my specials, you know. My life's passion is to be free and to show other people how to set themselves free too, you know, not just personally and professionally, but physically, spiritually, financially, in all the ways, right?
Love it.
So you know, the short version of the story is that I was always fascinated by the human body. Men, women, it didn't matter. I just love the aesthetics of the human body, you know, the lines of muscle and the symmetry and, you know, the strength of a body, you know. And I played a lot of sports when I was a kid. I was in all sorts of athletics. And when I played junior high school, or no, I was junior varsity, I think it was my sophomore year. Yeah, I was 15 years old and I broke my back. I got crushed at the bottom of a football pile.
Holy
and I fractured two vertebrae, the L4 and L5 in my low back. So I broke my back when I was 15 years old. And although they were hairline fractures, you know, when you look at your vertebrae, right, down through the middle of the vertebrae is your spinal column. And when your spine gets touched, it's almost like how you can get a concussion if you bang your head or if you get hit in the head, or, you know, if you're a fighter or whatnot, or you play sports, you get hit too hard in your head and your brain touches your skull.
Yep.
That's how you get a concussion, right? And you can lose your memory, you can lose all function, you know, motor functioning, and it really can affect you greatly because it's your brain. Well, the spinal column is the brain for your body, right? It encases all the nerve endings, and it allows your brain to tell your muscles what to do. And I don't mean just like, you know, when you're working out. I'm talking about like picking up a coffee cup to take a sip. You know, if your brain and your spinal cord are not functioning properly, well, I broke my back. And it created a huge avalanche of nerve impingement, weight displacement, exorbitant amount of pain over the course of my life. You know, literal physical pain. I'm not just talking emotional pain.
Right.
I had that going on the other side of the coin.
Right.
Now I had physical pain, right? So for me to build my body back up, I had to strength train. I had to reteach my body how to function in a systemic manner so that I could not just play sports and be an athlete, but I could get out of bed to go to the bathroom. I remember once when I broke my back, I remember taking a half hour to get up out of bed to go brush my teeth. You know, I was miserable physically. So I had to heal, you know, emotionally, right? If you're familiar with Louise Hay, she wrote a book called Heal Your Life, you know, and it's an emotional, you know, direct relationship between your emotional state and your physical state. So I did a lot of, you know, self-development at a very young age, you know, learned how to pray, learned how to talk to myself, learned how to talk to God. You know, these were just some of the things. And so my interest, so what happened was I started working out when I was very young, and I rehabilitated my body. Now, I could have gotten surgery, right? I could have elected to get cut open, but that wasn't really that appealing to me, you know? And my parents weren't real supportive of it. I was doing a lot more research on my body than anybody else was. And I knew that, you know, I wanted to take my own health and fitness into my own hands I learned something years ago when I was at that age, 15, 16 years old, reading all the health and fitness magazines and Muscle and Fitness and Flex magazine and Iron Man. And I was reading a lot about health and wellness and fitness, right? And Arnold Schwarzenegger was always my boyhood idol. I had posters of him in my basement gym. And, but I remember reading an article one time, and I remember, there was just so much conflict of information about health.
Mm-hmm.
I remember years ago when, don't eat eggs because you'll die from
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now it's the perfect protein.
That's right.
And now there's no such thing as cholesterol, I mean, of course there's cholesterol, but if you're not a match to it, right? I just had blood work done recently, and I eat a dozen eggs every 2 to 3 days. I'll go through like 4 to 5 eggs, a day. I have zero. My cholesterol is beyond ridiculous.
Right.
My triglycerides, my good and my bad LDLs are on point, for a 25-year-old guy. So
you look 21. It's amazing.
I don't know about that, but I turned 49 in 34 days.
Wow, that's awesome.
Counting or anything.
Yeah. That's good. Well, happy birthday, man. That's
thank you.
Amazing.
But I learned that if our doctors were so smart, right? Especially here in the Western world, if our doctors are so smart, why are so many people so sick?
Right.
And it's not that they don't care about people, but I think there's just so much misinformation that you have to discern what is best for you and what works for you. And if you prioritize your freedom, right, not just your health, because really health is a part of freedom, right? Your first wealth is your health, And so for me, I hated feeling discomfort, the pain of dis-ease, right? When my back was broken, I was physically ill. Like my every function in my body wasn't working properly, and when you have to heal yourself, it starts from the inside out. We heal from the inside out, right? When we work on our emotional pain, we can heal the physical pain all around us.
That's deep. So as you know, from my conversations, I'm all about vibration, energy, thoughts, words, beliefs. So what you're telling me right now is your proof that our emotions control our body, meaning that dis-ease is emotions.
Well, your body does what your mind tells it to. Okay, I have seen real extreme cases of dis-ease that were healed through the power of somebody's mind.
Amen.
I've done it myself. I've watched some of the closest people in my life heal like that.
Amazing. Yeah.
And stay alive when they should have been pronounced dead many times over. One of my best friends, Mark Hoverson. I don't know if you know Mark. But he was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Back in 2014. The doctors gave him months to live. He entered into hospice after several years of being sick and was sent home multiple times from hospice because he wasn't going at that time. He wasn't ready yet. He literally willed himself to live years beyond what the doctors expected. Patrick Swayze, Steve Jobs, right? They all died from stage 4 pancreatic cancer within literally months. Well, I watched Mark will himself to live, leave hospice, right, where he had already lost probably 70 or 80 pounds. They sent him home because he wasn't going to die. He chose to stay alive, and he would go home and light up a cigar, call his friends and say, hey, come over with a case of beer. And they would, and Mark lived right till the very end. Cancer killed him one time.
Amazing.
It is. It really is.
It really is. And what's amazing is that obviously we're talking about mind over physical matter here, but it's the same application where mind over anything in your universe is still the law. So you can create your drama, your blessings, your amazing relationships, the shitty ones. It's all what's in the head.
That's right.
So phenomenal. Let's move to, because I think it's a nice segue where mindset is so important and so big. I want to move into team building and talk about your team, etc. But before we get there, can we talk about your son?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
What do you want to know?
Well, so I told you what got my attention is when you went through that situation a while back, and I watched your stories and I watched your passion, which was just remarkable. And of course, there's a love of a son, but there was a much bigger thing going on that I got from it. So I want to talk about as much as you want and whatever you can bring there. But I want to know what that's all about and your love for your son and your support and why that's so important for you and how then that plays into your fight, because you're fighting for another human being. And I see the same thing in your team. You fight for other human beings. Yeah, you want to make money, cool, but there's a bigger purpose. So we'll connect we'll bridge from the son to the team.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I talked about this a few minutes ago. My highest value in life is freedom.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't just mean, the freedoms that I mentioned, right? Personal and professional and financial and geographical and spiritual and physical freedom. Because ultimately, the reasons that we work so hard to be financially free as entrepreneurs is for the sake of relationship freedom, right? And I know, Andre, you and Tammy have a pretty remarkable story when you were in real estate and how you were never home.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You're working 15, 18 hours a day, right? And, being in a position of entrepreneurship, right? We don't have a guaranteed salary. We don't get a guaranteed check every week. Anything can happen in entrepreneurship. But I was willing to risk not having a guaranteed income for a life of freedom. And I knew that if I just trusted that, not just, in my own abilities, right, in my own skills and my own, work ethic, my own level of determination, my own self-motivation, right? I trust in the universe. And I always feel that no matter what happens, that I will always be taken care of and provided for. And I've always had that belief since I was a little kid, And so, when I thought about what it would be like to be a dad, to be a father, I remember right when Legend was born, I read this book called You Are Your Child's First Teacher, and it's just like with growing a team inside of a business. If you're in a company like, we're in with our network marketing business, people don't do what you say, they do what you do, and they do what they see you do.
Yep.
So as a new dad, I wanted to not just live the life of freedom, but I wanted my son to see that this is what's possible. And I remember when he, started going to preschool and making friends and meeting the other kids' dads, he was shocked to find out that all their dads left the house every morning to go to work. Because he never saw me leave. He never saw me wake up, he never saw me get up out of bed at 5 or 6 in the morning, or even 7 or 8 or 9 in the morning and go to work.
Right.
Like, he just knew that when he woke up, it was usually because I was, laying on the bed with him and waking him up if he was sleeping later than I wanted him to, because I wanted him to be on my schedule, So he grew up with his dad literally there every day for him. And the reason I build my businesses the way I have was so that I didn't have to be like my dad and, be everything to everyone and be stuck in a phone booth and be constantly cleaning up,
Yeah.
the messes that were made. And I learned years ago that it's a lot easier to prevent the mess than to clean one up.
Sure.
So I'm always preventative thinking, and with health and wellness, it's almost like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Thinking forward, it's called forward thinking. I'm always planting the seeds, of expectation and existence. In other words, I speak into existence the act that will follow. But to stay in integrity means to follow through with your commitments. And, that has been a huge priority in my life, is learning how to honor myself, right? Learning how to honor myself by keeping my commitments and staying disciplined to my values.
So in your team, you have some powerful badasses. You got a nice little military going on there. I like it. How do you, and with that said, you have a style of leading. You don't put up with bullshit. And I've seen that in a couple of things that you've done where it's like, hey, either show up, run your business, or literally don't show up. Like stop talking about it. Do. And some people, of course, like, oh my God, Aaron's upset. But other people are like, oh shit, I like that because he's pushing me to grow, pushing me to succeed, etc. So how do you run a team? What's your philosophy in loving on a team, but expecting for them to succeed?
Yeah. First and foremost, I just want to, like, what's coming up for me when I hear you, kind of frame that question or set the stage for me to respond. I don't ever get upset about my team. Right?
Yeah.
Very little actually bothers me at all, right? Because I have very little attachment, right, to anyone, and not just my team, but a lead, a contact, a prospect.
Right.
In our business, we have what we call pre-enrollees. I have zero attachment, and I understand that we're not just building teams, we're building people.
Yes.
And then the people build the team and the people build the business. So I'm focused more on extracting the best out of the people that I am working with, right? By reminding them of who they really are.
That's right.
Because when they're born, right? When we're born into greatness, Yep. We're born, into greatness. And the way I know everybody's a winner in the beginning of their lives is because out of the millions of sperm that could have fertilized the egg, they were the clear-cut winner.
That's right. Ding, ding, ding.
Right, and so we're born perfectly, and I don't care if somebody's born without a limb or if they have a congenital heart defect or whatever the case might be. We're all born perfectly, if we're semi-healthy as far as our physical health, right, when we're born. And, we then get programmed and conditioned by our parents, right? By our siblings, by our extended family, then by teachers or coaches, and then our friends. And, they're conditioned by their parents and siblings and extended family and teachers and coaches and people that we model and mentor, right? So I know that everybody has it in them to be the best.
Absolutely.
And so I am just, the way I perceive it is I'm just a reflection of who they already are. And if there's things that they don't like about themselves, I have zero reservation in holding up the mirror to show them who they're being and how they're showing up for themselves and their lives and their business, because I know that they could become better than they are so that they could do more, right, with themselves and their lives and their businesses and their physical bodies and the relationships that they have, and then they can have anything that they choose.
Amen. Tell me about network marketing as an industry and why. Of course, I understand freedom, but there are technically other types of businesses you could have gotten into, and I know you're a coach today, and that's that. But tell me about network marketing and why, for you, network marketing, and then more importantly for the audience, whoever's watching this, anybody's guest, your guest, my guest, why network marketing and what can that bring you as far as results. And then I want to talk about your hard days, what you do to get through them, because in business, you're going to have them. So first, why network marketing, and what can that get people as a result?
Yeah. So I'll just give you the backstory. So my love for fitness and nutrition and exercise, it led me to becoming a personal trainer, right?
Yep.
And I did it in the gyms when I was, sophomore in college. I think I was about 19 years old when I first started working in my first gym, where I got a job in a gym. And, the gym itself, right, the fitness company had their own certification.
Oh, cool.
But that wasn't enough for me, because I felt like I already knew a lot of the things that they wanted to teach me. And, the words "I already know that" are the most dangerous words in the English language, because when you say these words, "I already know that,"
yep,
you say it from a condescending place, or a place of, resistance and being open to receive. You really have, a closed down system, and you're not open to receive anything, not in your heart, not in your mind, not through your hands. Right. And so, instead of thinking, oh, I already know all this, I decided to challenge myself and get nationally certified. And I was the only trainer in the gym that was willing to go past, and beyond what the gym required for me to start working. So it took a little bit longer for me to get on the gym floor and be allowed to start, selling my fitness and coaching and training packages to clients, personal training packages. But I got nationally certified, and I spent a lot more time really mastering my craft, so that I had the confidence, not because the course was any more difficult, but I wanted the confidence to be able to articulate my confidence in what I can teach and what I know with my potential clients. And I was the top grossing personal trainer in a tri-state area between, Baltimore, well, not so much Baltimore, but Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Virginia.
Nice.
For this health and fitness company. It was Bally's. It was the largest health.
Oh, yeah.
It was the largest, health club chain at the time.
Yeah.
Right now, it's kind of old memory and a thing of the past. But a lot of the fitness industry is a thing of the past right now. But
that's right. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. So anyway, just to kind of put us back on track. So I worked in the gym, and I loved my work. I loved my people. I loved my clients. I loved to help people, right, in the gym, and give people advice and feedback. And everybody would come to me, and I would, sit them in the office, or we would sit out on the gym. We'd talk on the gym floor. We would sit out in the cafe. And I was just doing all sorts of, consulting and really giving advice to all the people in the gym. And then a lot of them hired me because they knew I could really help them. Look better, feel better, have more energy, develop more confidence, burn fat, build muscle, the whole 9 yards, right? Everybody wanted to be in the gym, wanted to get into great shape. And when they were frustrated after not seeing the results that they expected, a lot of them hired me. Well, I realized after doing that for so long, that I was just trading my time for money, and I would go to work and I would get paid. I would go to work and I would get paid, and I would go to work and I would get paid. And if I didn't go to work, I didn't get paid. Well, one day I showed up without having shaved. I had a goatee, if you can imagine, right, when I was in college. And, it was back in the early 90s, the grunge era, with, all the alternative bands. And I was at concerts every weekend, and I was a big burnout. Like party, train by day, party by night. I was a barback, and I bartended, and I always had the parties. I always had big parties around. And I showed up one morning, without having shaved fully, and my manager sent me home. And, my manager was a great guy, but he had a mustache, and I had a 5 o'clock, 3-day shadow.
Yeah.
I lost a whole day's worth of pay, because if I couldn't work, I didn't get paid. And I really have been thinking about this idea of linear income for so long that I went back the next day. I turned in my keys to the personal training office. I cleaned out my locker, emptied out my desk, And I gave a 2-minute notice, and I walked away from that corporate job forever. This was in 1995. Now, I had seen network marketing because several friends of mine and I, we started a fraternity back in the early 90s, even before this all took place at the gym. And out of a room of, 50 fraternity guys, all in our early 20s, when I saw that whiteboard presentation and I saw that I could make $10,000 a month,
right,
without a job, without a boss, without a commute in the dark every morning,
and not shaved, yeah,
and I could run my own business by helping other people. I bought that story hook, line, and sinker. And I saw network marketing when I was very young, 21,
Amazing.
22 years old. And then what happened was when I quit my job at the gym a few years later, and I moved out to California to pursue my dreams of being free, right, on the West Coast. I moved to San Diego. I started working in the gym in the beginning, right, when I got there, just to kind of give myself a soft landing. I got a job as a personal training manager. I wound up setting up a program, buying equipment out of all these fitness equipment companies in Los Angeles. And I remember, getting the gym and the computer set up and hiring other trainers. And after just another couple, 2-3 months, I said, I am no further ahead than when I started here. So I quit my job. And one of my clients contacted me when I let her know I was leaving the gym. And she said, hey, my husband is involved in a company, and I think you might be very good at it. Well, sure enough, I found myself in front of the whiteboard again. And I was driving up to Irvine from San Diego to go to a hotel event. And when I saw what was possible, right? When I saw other people who were no different than me, they bleed red when they cut themselves. They put their pants on the same way every morning. Left leg, right leg, left leg, left leg. I knew if they could do it, I could do it too. And that was my entry point back into the industry in it was November of 1995.
Wow, 95. Holy shit. What company was it?
That company was called, let me just think. So my very first company when I was in college was called, oh gosh, the name escapes me.
Wow.
It was a dog food company. It was a dog food company. It was,
really?
It was Alphen International.
Wow.
Alphen, Alphen, Alphen International was the name of the company I joined when I was in college. I bought $500 worth of dog food. I didn't even have a dog, Andre, but I knew all my friends had dogs.
That's right.
I sold all the dog food to my friends with dogs.
Yeah.
And my sponsor never knew how hungry I was for success because he never contacted me after he sold me all this dog food. So I had $500 worth of dog food. I was the laughing stock of my fraternity. They all thought I was such a moron. I had all this dog food delivered to an apartment that I was living in with some friends of mine, some of my fraternity brothers. And I sold it all. I took the money. I didn't know anything about building a downline. It hadn't registered yet.
You were flipping product.
I was just retailing product, and I took all the money. I bought a keg of beer.
Well, yeah.
I probably bought a couple ounces of marijuana.
Makes sense.
Partied my profits away. And it was so much fun. And then that was it. I didn't hear about it again for another 3.5, 4 years.
Oh, wow.
The next company I got into was called Envion. And this company was a big advocate for the 40-30-30 zone diet. If you're familiar with Dr. Barry Sears, he wrote the book called Enter the Zone. It's all about the 40-30-30 zone diet, carbs, protein, fat, and those ratios. And I learned a lot about these things in my nutrition studies when I was in college called eicosanoids. And those are really the governing factors of the hormones that our body has to elicit in order to build muscle and burn fat. It's food combinations, food groups, those kinds of things. But that was my first company. when I moved out to California, and, my parents were great. They bought all the weight loss bars.
Yeah.
My clients were great. They bought, a couple cases. I didn't even know to sign them up in the company. I didn't know about,
That's funny.
monthly auto ship. I didn't really think, I wanted to have a long-term passive residual income, but nobody was really grabbing me by the horns and saying, hey, you need to do things a certain way.
Interesting.
So I learned by, what I call baptism by fire. I learned the hard way that when you get started in a company, that there's somebody who's enrolled you, and they have you have a sponsor who has a sponsor. There's
Absolutely.
other people who have blazed a trail that you can literally lock on to what they're doing. And if they're really good at teaching you, stick to that person like glue, because they're going to be your lifeline to big success. And so that's what I learned very early on in the industry, Andre.
That's awesome. So we have about 4 minutes before we go into wrap. So let me ask you two more things. One, look, we're economy globally right now is just, we don't even know what it is, right? Like it's hitting the fan. So why would somebody want to get into network marketing, Hempwork specifically with us? Like, why are we hot in today's world?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't really follow the politics and all the propaganda and the media.
Yeah.
I think it's all just used to keep the public in fear. Now, not just here in America, but worldwide.
Oh, it's global. Yeah.
So to me, it really doesn't matter who's in office. What matters is that I'm in my office.
Yep.
And you're in your office, and everyone who wants to be free is in their own office.
That's right.
So right now, there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur, because while every other industry, things like the fitness industry, right, with all the gyms being shut down, I don't know if you're familiar, Andre, but there's literally dozens of fitness companies that are going out of business right now.
Yeah.
Gold's Gym, bankruptcy. 24-hour fitness, on the verge of bankruptcy. Planet Fitness hasn't had membership dues in over, 45 days? They're struggling big time.
Yeah.
Corporations, I'm talking about multi-billion-dollar corporations. That's just fitness. You've got travel, you have hospitality, you have the food industry.
Yep.
Right? All these industries are suffering.
That's right.
And yet our industry, right, where we work from home, we set our own schedule, make our own hours, we pick and choose our own partners and our own customers,
yep,
clients, right? We're flourishing. I just got my best check. Well, we all did today.
Yeah, it's good.
We all just got our biggest checks.
Yeah.
In the history of our company, because last month, right, during April of 2020, our company just had its biggest month ever.
Yep.
And we are the leading company in the market, right, for CBD and
absolutely, and
associated products, right, hemp products and all sorts of different products that our company manufactures and allows us to market for them. So everybody's home buying online. Everybody's home searching for new ways to make money. Everybody's home looking for ways to pay off their bills and get out of debt and make ends meet and, take care of themselves and their families so that they're not worried and stressed out with all this anxiety. We have products. And I said this, last night, 8 out of 10 problems that most people have, in this world revolve around their finances and around their health. And we have a solution to both of those problems with just one company, one product line, one opportunity, an amazing compensation plan when you learn how to market and talk to people. And that's really all we have to learn to do, is how to market and talk to people. And when you get that dialed in and you get that part right and you get yourself right, by doing the personal development, reading the books, listening to the audios, modeling great people and leadership and learning about success, right? When you get those things right, everything else just automatically falls right into place.
Amen. What's amazing is like you're talking about being able to do this from anywhere, and we work from home and you're in your office, but I see your kitchen behind you and it's a beautiful kitchen with appliances. But this is the life, right? Like I'm in my garage in my studio, I'm at home, my wife is working by the pool outside, has her laptop. So this is the life, and we get to create the life that we want. So great answer. Last question. Just give me a brief bam, 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 because there seems to be a thing out there, more of the past, and I think we're getting more and more away from it. But somebody dropped it in comments. I want to address it. Anybody that's looking at network marketing and HempWorks and us thinking, oh my God, is this Amway? Is this that thing? Is it the pyramid thing? What's your quick answer to that?
Oh, you mean kind of like your job?
Oh, boom.
And the reason is, Andre, is because they say, well, what do you mean, like my job?
Yep.
You know, a lot of people anyone that asks that question is kind of an indicator that they really don't understand business very well, right?
Right?
And they say, well, what do you mean, like my job? I say, well, do you have a boss? And they say, yeah. I say, well, does your boss have a boss? And they say, yeah. I say, well, does your boss's boss have a boss? And they say, yeah. And I say, okay, great. I say, so does your boss, make more money than you? Yes. And does your boss's boss make more money than him or her? Yes. And how about your boss's boss and your boss's boss's boss? And they say, yes. And I say, okay, so how long do you want to be at the bottom of somebody else's pyramid without knowing what it looks like from the top down?
That was pretty to the point, specific, and efficient. That was awesome. Thank you, brother. This was a pleasure having you on. I really didn't know all that story of yours, and specifically the growing up, the father entrepreneur, that the Superman in the phone booth. That shit will stick with the audience forever because it's awesome, right? It's really a great story. So let me know who on your team you would like for me to interview next. And you don't need to answer me now.
Okay.
If you want to run a little contest in your team and whoever you feel should be on the Hempibition, I will take them on.
All right. Well, let's just reverse engineer this. Last week you interviewed one of my nearest and dearest friends.
Yep.
Also one of my personal sponsees into the business.
Yep.
And one of the top leaders in not just our company, but the entire industry of network marketing and home-based business and direct sales, right? Jason Cardamone.
Badass.
And I just recently sponsored an amazing guy who I'm just getting started knowing, but we've jumped into the deep end so quickly that I feel like he's already a brother from another mother. And he's a rising star in the company, already setting records and really inspiring thousands of people. And that would be Mr. Christopher Celeste.
Bring him on, baby.
And Chris, if you're watching, brother.
He's on.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure. I know because he liked a couple of my posts about being on here.
Yeah.
You deserve to have Chris on here, Andre. And
that's fun. Really, that's awesome.
Really deep dive into his past.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Chris, send me a DM, brother, and we'll set it up. What's funny is I know his name from our groups, etc. But then we have a mutual friend that called me saying that Chris has a question about HempWorks. It was the funniest shit in the world. So that's how I connected dots quickly. I'm like, I know the guy. Anyway, thank you again. You're a complete badass. The story I know will reach people's hearts, and that's what this is about. The idea is to get the message across that anybody can do this. You don't have to be this special thing with all this training and, thousands of hours and all these books. No, it takes hunger. Aaron Rashkin is starving. He wants freedom. So, brother, thank you again. Totally appreciate you. And I'll see you at the top.
Thanks for having me on, Andre. And can I just share something before we wrap up? I know you got to.
Absolutely.
I've always believed that this industry can set people free in every which way possible, right? It's the gateway to so many millions of people's freedom. And so the last thing I want to share, right? You need to think like you're rich, but work like you're broke. Mm-hmm. And if you wake up every day thinking that you've got to build your business like you had nothing to fall back on, right? People would, they would literally, if you would respond to that thought every day, you
Yep.
can reach whatever level of success you came here for.
Amen. So think rich, work like you're broke. I think Grant Cardone does the same thing. That's awesome.
Every day.
Amen. Aaron Rashkin, everybody, please drop in comments. Number one, say thank you to Aaron. Number two, what's your biggest takeaway from his whole phenomenal story? And just send him some love. Thank you again, brother. I will see you very soon.
Thanks so much, Andre. I appreciate you. Say hello to the family for me.
Thank you, man. Talk to you soon. All right, everybody. Well, that was freaking amazing. The one and only Aaron Rashkin on the Hempibition. And listen, here's bottom line to the Hempibition and the reason we chose to do this show and to create this whole podcast and YouTube channel and get out here live. Look, there are many, many ways to support our families in the world. And exactly what Aaron said, you can go to a job, you can leave at 5 a.m. I did it for years in my contractor business. It was chaos. I was sitting in traffic for hours a day. And it's like, what am I doing? My point is very specific. The message here is that we can all get freedom back. We can all get to a place where we can work from our cell phones. And that's the magic of this industry. Does it happen overnight? No. Give it time. Just like everything else, it takes time to put on muscle. It takes time to put on fat. It takes time. Allow the time necessary to change your life. Find a good team. Find a good a resource, a company. Jump on board. Learn, because it takes time to learn. That's my big point here. Let the learning happen. And then results are going to show up, just like with everything else. It's called the compound effect. What you do every day, you will one day hold in your hand. So with that said, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, this gets repurposed to the Hempibition on iTunes, Spotify, Twitcher, etc. So please go to the channel, subscribe, download, give us 5 stars, leave a badass review. And then, of course, the Hempibition YouTube channel. This will be repurposed there. And that's it. I will see you guys next Thursday on the Hempibition show. And of course, Tuesday, we have the Who's a Badass show. So with all that said, love you guys. Thank you for investing your time into us, and don't forget to drop thank yous and love for Aaron Rashkin, and of course what your biggest takeaway is, and of course share the shit out of this. All right, I love you all. Peace out.